Hello everyone. This is our second lecture on power system stability. Okay, so in lecture one, we defined what is stability, and then the categories of system stability, which are the rotor angle stability, the voltage stability, and the frequency stability. And for this second lecture, we consider the first one, which is the rotor angle stability. And among the three, this one will occupy or will eat up much of our time for our discussion on power system stability. So we consider first the rotor angle stability. Now it is defined as the ability of the interconnected system or synchronous machines of our power system to remain in synchronism whenever there is disturbance. So that's simply the simple definition of rotor angle stability. There might be some disturbance, but later on the synchronous machines will be able to recover from that disturbance and go back to the normal condition. Okay, so the emphasis on the rotor angle stability is on the ability to remain synchronism. So in other words, when the generators in the power network are operating, then they must have the ability to remain in synchronism. Otherwise, if they cannot remain in synchronism, they will fall out from the operation and makes a disturbance to our system. And then secondly, the torque balance of our synchronous machines, that is the mechanical torque supplied by the prime mover and the electromagnetic torque now developed by the generator, should be balanced. Now the rotor dynamics and the swing equation. Now the equation governing the motion of the rotor of our synchronous machine is based on the elementary principle in dynamics, which states that the accelerating torque is the product of the moment of inertia and the angular acceleration, or that is the torque developed in the machine would be equal to the its moment of inertia times the angular acceleration alpha. Okay, so this is what we learned from dynamics of rigid bodies. And our alpha is angular acceleration is just the derivative of our omega, which is the angular speed, no? So dw dt is our acceleration. And the angular speed is actually the derivative of our angular displacement, theta. So in effect, our alpha is just equal to the second derivative of the angular displacement theta with respect to t. No? So we have I d squared d theta dt. Or in terms of the angular speed, we can also express our torque as I d omega dt. No? Or looking simple is the formula for torque, which is I alpha, where alpha is the angular acceleration. Now, at normal condition, the synchronous axis and the rotor axis are aligned, wherein in the perturbed condition, the rotor axis advances or lags the synchronous axis. Now, this is our rotor represented by this solid body with moment inertia I, and the torque acting here is T, and the this rotating body has angular speed omega due to this torque. Now, for our synchronous machines, okay, we learned that we have the armature here as the body of the generator, and then we have the rotating field, no, making our that make us our rotor, no, of our synchronous okay, generator, where we have here the field poles. So that's why we have here the north pole and the south pole, okay, for a two-pole generator, where our field poles are supplied with current, no? So making it electromagnet to produce flux needed for the generation of voltage in our armature or at the motor. Also, we learned that in three-phase machines like synchronous generators, okay, the current in the three-phase windings here, okay, are so arranged that when currents, okay, the three-phase currents flow to them, okay, they will produce what we call as the uh, resultant flux or resultant field, which we call as the rotating magnetic field, no? So any point, okay, in our synchronous machine, okay, the magnetic flux of the three phases will just add up together, and their resultant will, okay, if we just look at the resultant of the three-phase flux, okay, it would just be like, okay, the hand of a clock where it rotates, okay, around, no, at constant speed, and because we call this as the synchronous speed. So producing the standard frequency of 60 hertz, no, our standard frequency. Okay, so we have magnetic flux here, resulting magnetic flux, okay, rotating around, which we cannot see, of course. Okay, so uh, we make that as, okay, uh, our reference axis, no, where our magnetic flux will rotate. So our rotor, okay, will follow that, okay, rotating magnetic field, no, in the stator. So as if they are interlocked, no, they are they stick together, okay, so that our rotor axis always coincides with the magnetic field axis, okay, the resultant magnetic field axis, no, as the magnetic field, okay, rotates around. So the magnetic field and the rotor, okay, will rotate, okay, together, no, they will rotate, okay, together at the same speed. But when there is disturbance and the generator reacts to that disturbance, our rotor, okay, may lead or lag, okay, the synchronous axis. So in other words, if our synchronous, okay, axis, okay, is the same, no, constant, okay, rotating at a constant speed. But the problem is in our rotor, because our rotor will react to the disturbance, okay, of the system, no. So the rotor axis may either lead or lag. So supposing our reference axis rotates, okay, clockwise in this direction, uh, now, okay, our rotor as drawn here, okay, will be lagging the reference axis, because the axis of the rotor is now at this angle theta with respect to the reference axis. So as our reference axis rotates, okay, our rotor also will rotate, but it's lagging constantly with this angle theta. No, so this is the case when, okay, the generator, okay, with the disturbance results to additional load of our generator, meaning when there is a generator that shuts down, so that the generated power is now less than the demand of the load. So meaning the remaining generators operating will have to shoulder the load previously carried by the generator that shuts down. So they will share that load accordingly. So in effect, each generator will now be loaded more than what they were used to have, during the normal condition. So that's why the rotor axis here may lag behind the reference axis. Now the other case is the when a big load is disconnected from the system, then the generators will feel the relief of that load, as distributed to them accordingly. So the load of each generator will then be less than what they used to supply before the disturbance. So what happens? Their rotor will speed up. As a result of the decrease in their load, so their rotor will speed up. As we experience this usually, for example, when you are biking and then somebody is back riding immediately, so or when you are biking and then somebody is back riding, so you pedal the bike, and so you exert a certain force, so throughout that time when you are traveling together, with the one back riding you, so you are constantly exerting a bigger force, for you to travel. But when he jumps off immediately, you will see that the with the same force that you used to pedal the bike, you notice that you tend to speed up. You tend to the speed up because about half of the load of the bike is out when the one back riding jumps off immediately. So that's also how the generator behaves when a part of the load is being relieved from them. So in that case, the rotor axis will advance the reference axis. So the rotor axis will be down here. So for leading rotor axis, so it will be here, while this one will be for lagging. Okay, now let us consider our generator. So this is the body of the rotor of our generator of a certain mass or a moment of inertia I. And then we have TB. This is TM. So this TM is the torque of the prime mover, driving our generator, because our generator will be driven by a turbine or by the diesel engine. So these are what we call as prime movers, the turbines of our generator. So the torque that our prime mover creates at our generator rotor will be clockwise, counterclockwise in this direction. So the rotor of our generator also, omega, will be rotating in this direction, to be in the same direction as the torque, driving the rotor of our generator. Now our generator will produce electromagnetic torque, to produce electric power. So there is electric torque, TE, in the opposite direction of TM. So our TE is all opposite to TM. So if TM is counterclockwise, our electrical torque, electromagnetic torque would be okay clockwise. For the synchronous motor, okay, our motor will draw power okay from the source. So it's the electrical power that is driving our okay, rotor. So we have here a TE in the clockwise direction, and so the rotation of the rotor will be also in the same direction as TE. Now the mechanical power, okay, developed by our motor will be opposite. So TM will be okay clockwise. So at any operating condition, okay, our TM should always equal to okay TE. Now, with some disturbance, there is a net torque acting on the rotor called an accelerating torque A. So, at the moment of disturbance, okay, the system is disturbed so that okay, Tm is no longer equal to Te. So, for example, when there is a loss of load, so our what? Our Tm will be greater than our Te. No? So the mechanical torque is greater than our Te, and so our machine will be running okay faster. But when one of the generators will pull out from the system, then the generators will carry okay more load, so the electromechanical torque is greater than the mechanical torque. So, at any condition, okay, in the perturbed condition, there is what we call as the accelerating torque, okay, TA. Now, the swing equation of a rotating asynchronous machine is now written as, okay, J times the second derivative of theta m, okay, dt squared equals to the accelerating torque TA, which okay can be okay Tm minus Te or Te minus Tm, okay, whatever is the case. No, so in this equation, our J is what we call as the total inertia of the synchronous okay machine, including the prime mover in a kilogram per meter squared. So it is no longer the moment of inertia of the rotating rotor of our generator, but okay, this J here includes also the rotating mass of our prime mover, because simply now with for example a diesel engine driving our generator, so our diesel engine has okay the shaft, okay the pistons, okay forming part of the rotating part of the diesel engine. So those are included in this equation. So J and the moment of inertia of the generator is also included. So that takes this J takes of them all. Okay, so or the total inertia of the synchronous machine, including the prime mover. So that is J. And again, this theta m here is our angular displacement, okay, up of the rotor with respect to the stationary axis, in mechanical, okay, radians. So then it's equal to TA, equal to Tm minus T. Okay, Tm here is the mechanical or shaft torque supplied by the prime mover. Okay, less retarding torque due to rotational, okay, losses. And TE is the net electrical torque or electromagnetic torque. Okay, these are the units. And TA here is the net accelerating torque in Newton, okay, meter. So to simplify analysis, it is convenient to measure the rotor angular position, okay, with respect to the reference axis, which rotates at synchronous speed. No, so okay, what we are going to consider now is that okay, we will choose a rotating reference axis. Okay, so we no longer consider the stationary okay reference axis, because for example, when we consider the stationary reference axis and we measure the total angle traveled by the rotor of our generator operating 24 hours. So the number that we will get, the number of radians that we will get, okay, using that stationary reference axis would be quite a large number. So it is therefore, okay, convenient if we choose a rotating axis. And this axis will rotate at synchronous speed. So in other words, okay, our axis will be revolving also at the same speed as the resultant flux, no, in the rotor. So we define it this way, no. Our theta m, which is the total angular displacement, no, of the rotor in mechanical radians, okay, from the synchronously rotating reference, this is delta m, no? So our theta m is measured from the stationary axis, and it is equal to omega sm, angular speed at synchronous, synchronous speed of the machine, times the time. So then, plus this, delta m. So meaning, if this t here corresponds to one rotation of the machine, so which is equivalent to 2 pi radians for every rotation, then for a given WSM, we will get a big number of theta m if the operation would be, say, 1 day or 1 week or 1 month or 1 year, continuous operation. So this theta m will be getting bigger and bigger, no? Okay, then this delta m here is the displacement of the rotor in mechanical degrees with respect to the rotating axis. Okay, so this becomes our rotating axis. Okay, so the derivative of equation 2 with respect to time is therefore equal to d theta m, dt would be equal to WSM, no? Where we have t here before, so with respect to t, so derivative of t here is just equal to 1. So we have WSM only remaining. And then plus the derivative of delta m with respect to t. So, okay, then this d theta m dt is the rotor speed in mechanical radians per second. WSM is our synchronous speed, and this d delta m dt would be the derivative of the angular displacement of the rotor angle with respect to the rotating axis. Okay, now if we further take the derivative of this equation, we have, at the left we just have the second derivative of theta m with respect to t, and then derivative of WSM is 0 because this is constant. And then for this term, we have second derivative of delta m, dt squared, no, equal to equation 4. So therefore, our swing equation, we call this as our swing equation when we have, an accelerating torque T here, no, representing the difference of the mechanical torque and the electromagnetic torque TE, or TE minus TM. So our TE then will just be equal to, instead of theta m, where theta m is the absolute, no, measure of angle from the stationary reference axis. Now this time we are now using delta m, which is the derivative of the displacement angle between the rotating axis, no, and the rotor of our generator. So J d squared delta m dt squared equal to TA. Now, in power system, we usually use, okay, power in kilowatt or megawatts. Now, the equation relating torque and power is, okay, power is equal to torque times the angular speed. Okay, now let us denote omega m equal to d theta m, okay, dt. No, angular speed omega m is just equal to d theta m, okay, dt. So multiplying equation 5 by omega m, okay, we have, okay, j omega m. Okay, omega m here refers to the machine, no? Okay, so j omega m, okay, times the second derivative of delta m theta squared equal to omega m, okay, tm, okay, okay, minus omega m te. Now, omega mtm is the power, mechanical power, pm, and omega mte is the electrical power, kpe. So, where pm is the shaft power input, not to the machine, less rotational losses, and pe is the electrical power, okay, crossing the air gap of our synchronous generator. So, equation 7 may be then written as j omega m, second derivative of delta m, okay, dt squared, equal to pm minus pe. So, instead of torque, we now use, okay, the mechanical power and the electrical power, which are usually, okay, known, no? Okay, rather than torque, so PM and PR easier to be given. So this is our, okay, expression now of our, okay, swing equation, okay, involving the second derivative of d delta m, okay, dt squared. By the way, we have here what a differential equation now involving a second derivative of an angle with respect to t. Okay, so second order differential equation. Now, the coefficient, okay, g omega m is the angular momentum of the rotor at synchronous speed WSM. Now, it is denoted by m, okay, which is called the inertia constant of the machine. So, we let, okay, j omega m to be represented by inertia constant of the machine, m. And this is in kilogram meter squared, okay, per, okay, second squared. Now, if we check, okay, the units of j and omega m, okay, before, so we have this unit. So, our equation, swing equation, now becomes m, okay, this squared, delta m dt squared equal to Pm minus Pe. So strictly speaking, m is not constant because Wm varies from time to time, no? The angular speed of our generator varies from time to time, but we can consider the variation to be very close to Wsm, no? So, for example, if our omega m results to a frequency of the system equal to 60 Hz, then variation due to disturbance can make us our frequency to rise to 60.1 to 60.2, or it can go down to 59.9 or 59.95 and so on. So the variation of the frequency would be close to the standard frequency of 60. Now, that will also correspond to our angular speed, no, of the rotor. Now, the inertia constant h, okay, of the machine. So, okay, so another constant that possibly replaces m is called the inertia constant h, okay, which is defined as, okay, the stored kinetic energy in megajoules at synchronous speed of the machine, okay, divided by the machine rating in MVA. Or this is equal to, our h is equal to 1/2 of j omega sm squared, no, the angular, okay, momentum. So it's Okay, this formula is very common. 1/2 mv squared for moving bodies. No, what else? 1/2. What are other things with 1/2? No, to get kinetic for moving bodies, 1/2 mv squared. Okay, so very similar to this formula is very similar to that formula in okay, dynamics or kinetics. Okay, and the machine rating is just designated as is Mach. No, so 1/2 J omega is m squared can just be replaced by okay, J omega is m. So since we have here squared, so we still have WSM left. So 1/2 m omega SM over is Mach, and this one will have a unit of megajoules, and the machine rating here is in MVA. So the unit of H is megajoules, okay, per MVA. Now the advantage of using this constant H is that we are normalizing, okay, the values into a smaller one. Now when we express, okay, the values of the uh, kinetic energy of the rotating generator, no, okay, into a smaller value, because you know that okay, WSM is quite large, no, and we have also J, which is quite large. So if we use only this, so we will be involving okay, large value of numbers. Okay, but when we express that in terms of the capacity of the machine, then we are normalizing okay, this value to a smaller value, as we will see okay, later. Okay, so Ismach here is the machine rating in MBA. So solving for M, okay, from this equation, okay, our M can just be expressed as 2H over WSM, okay, times the machine, okay, MBA rating. And substituting for M in equation 9, so our equation becomes okay, 2H over WSM, okay, this squared delta M dt squared. Now this is equal to PM minus PE, and then we divide this, okay, machine rating coming from here, okay, to the right. So we have is Mach here. Now we have this expression at the left, and at the right, what happens is that when we divide the mechanical power by the machine rating, so we are just computing the mechanical power in per unit, no? With the machine rating as okay, the base, so mahimo ni siyang per unit. And similarly for the electrical power developed, when we divide this by the machine rating, so we have the electrical power okay, in per unit. Now the per unit value, if you have not encountered this yet, okay, simply is the per unit value of a quantity is just simply equal to the actual value of the quantity divided by the base, okay, value. Now in this case, we use the machine rating as the base. So the power, mechanical power, we divide that by the machine rating as the base, so we get okay, per unit. Okay, per unit. Okay, so in this case we will okay, we will be having here a smaller number compared to using PM or PE. Generally, PM PU and PE PU are represented as PM and PE only for simplicity. So instead of indicating here the per unit and the per unit, okay, encountering this equation, it is understood that if we drop the per unit here, the per unit, okay, the PM and the PE here are in per unit. No, when we use this equation, okay, this PM and PE are different from the PM and the PE here when we still use okay, this one, no? So this is understood now to be in a per unit. So by dropping the subscript, M as it represents, okay, the machine. So again, because we are talking this equation, okay, we are referring to this machine, so we drop the subscript M. So we have 2h over Ws, okay, times d squared, okay, delta dt squared equal to Pm minus Pe. Now for a system with frequency f and in hertz, okay, our swing equation becomes h over, okay, Ws is just, okay, 2 pi f. So the 2 will now just cancel with the 2 up here. So we have only pi f down. And we still have d squared, the delta dt squared, and then Pm minus Pe, okay, at the right. Okay, so now here delta must be in electrical, okay, radians. Okay, because we are now replacing Ws as in terms of the frequency. So the delta that we should use here should now be in electrical, okay, radians. Or in degrees, okay, we have H, pi is equivalent to 180 electrical degrees. So we have this frequency and then d squared delta dt squared minus equal to Pm minus Pe, but delta should be expressed also in electrical degrees. So the delta here, if we are using this equation, this delta should be expressed in, okay, electrical degrees. So equation 15 and its variations, okay, from equation 6 to 17 are called the swing equation. No? The swing equation is a second order, okay, first degree, okay, differential equation. So the swing equation may be solved by transforming it into two first order differential equations. So instead of, okay, the second derivative of delta with respect to t, we express, okay, the delta as omega minus omega sub s. Okay, because delta here is the angular displacement of the rotor axis, okay, with respect to the rotating synchronous axis. Okay, so we can solve now these two equations simultaneously to get the solution. But anyway, we will go to, okay, since we have passed the differential equation, so okay, we can just proceed, okay, to finding the solution of the swing equation, okay, later, using our differential equations. Now when the swing equation is solved, okay, we obtain expression for delta, as a function of time. A graph, okay, of the solution is called the swing curve of the machine. And inspection of the swing curves of all the machines of the system will show whether the machines remain in synchronism after a disturbance. So meaning, if we're going to obtain the solution to the swing equation, then we will have a swing curve. So the swing curve, okay, will indicate, okay, how our generator behaves, as it encounters, okay, disturbance, okay, with respect to its rotor angle, okay, position. Now with multi-machines, okay, power system, okay, in a multi-machine, okay, system, okay, the output and the accelerating power of each machine depend upon the angular position and upon the angular speed of all the machines of the system. Thus, for a three-machine system, okay, there are three simultaneous differential equations. Okay, for example, for machine 1, going to, okay, using the energy, the machine constant M, no? So we have M1 times the second derivative of delta 1 with respect to time equal to Pm minus okay, PE1. Okay, so our PE1 would be a function of the angular displacement of generator 1 and also the angular displacement of generator 2, angular displacement of generator 3, no, for a 3-machine system. And it is also a function of the derivative of delta 1, derivative of delta 2, and derivative of delta 3. No, because the derivative here, okay, indicates the damping effect, no, of the rotors, no, of our generators. Now, similarly for our generator 2, we have our swing equation as into d squared, okay, delta 2 dt squared equal to Pm minus, okay, Pe2, which is a function of delta 1, delta 2, delta 3, and derivatives of delta 1, delta 2, and delta 3. And similarly for in 3, so we have this, where delta 1, okay, prime, delta 2 prime, and delta 3 prime, okay, determines the damping torques, no, of the, okay, machine. So actually, okay, if we consider closely, okay, the behavior of our generator, so it's really very complicated. It's not just, okay, that simple, no, that this one is just equal to Pm minus Pe1. But the Pe1 here is affected by, okay, the angular displacements of the okay, generators, okay, in the power system, and the derivatives of their angular displacements.